sharing your slides?
Sure. After the presentation,
Okay.
I will be sending this one to everyone who participated for today.
Oh, now yes. For now, when you are presenting, are you sharing your slides? Share screen.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
So yeah, if anyone cannot see it or having trouble hearing me, just simply tell me. Yeah, thank you so much in advance. Okay, and the final part we'll be talking about the burden for different generation, and of course, in terms of the generation, like baby boomer, we call the person who were born in 1940, and later generation we have generation X, who were born during the end of 70s and the beginning of 80s. And for me, like generation Y, we were born during the 80s and the beginning of 90s. And later on, we have generation Z, who are our university students nowadays, or some of them are the first jobber seeking for the job in the industry. And finally, we have generation Alpha, who were born in from 2011 forward. So in this presentation, we will see that how each generation interact with this situation, and I try to collect some information from colleague interviews and also from the student in the evaluation system, because in Kasetsart University, we have computer system that student can provide the feedback after their midterm and again after the final examination. So in every single semester, we will try our best to, let's say, to meet student needs and try to meet them in the middle of the road in case that there is some miscommunication or misunderstanding. And what we have found so far, of course, we don't have much problem with the same like Gen X, or even Gen Y. I used to teach like older people or teach like someone who just like a few years younger than me, but what happened now in Thailand, and maybe we have gotten some feedback from other countries as well, that why generation Z is so difficult to teach, and this is based on many discussion in the academy world. So, sorry. For me, I have been working in the academia quite long, I think since around 10 years already, but anyway, in the past, I have included the time that I've been abroad, and in many countries in Asia or in Europe, and of course, I work as the assistant lecturer as well. And from that kind of experience, we have found out that the different type of age and the different type of generation, the way that they try to learn from our curriculum or any textbook is totally different from the past. Compare like 10 years ago and even compare nowadays, I think I have to use like several methods and try to use some adaptive strategy to understand student more. Basically, the emergence of the COVID in Thailand, we have, like, as I mentioned earlier, we have the situation like quite up and down. I came to Kasetsart University in 2020. During that time, luckily, the number of the infection is so low. I mean, less than 1,000 per day, or maybe like a couple hundred. And even during that time, we were mentioned that we have best practice in preventing COVID, but unpredictably, we cannot deal with the COVID Delta, which originated in India. And for that kind of the COVID Delta, spread is so fast in Thailand, and of course, it made the number of the infection in Thailand increase so high, especially in by the beginning of the 2021. So this is one of the excerpts that I took from my favorite movie, because when I talk with the student, and especially during this COVID situation, many students, they feel so down, especially for the freshmen. They don't have any chance to meet new friends in the actual situation. Everything we have to do like opening ceremony for the freshmen online and everything 100% online, we cannot really have a group discussion or playing game together. Many students, I have talked to them and they said that they feel so depressed, and some of them at first they decided to stay in the dormitory, in campus dormitory, but after the outburst of the third wave of the COVID-19 in Thailand, many of them, since they have known that, okay, I can't study online, why bother coming to the campus anymore? Why should I have to spend more expensive on the dormitory and for the food consumption and etc. So many students, especially freshmen, they decided to go back to their hometown, and it means that during nowadays in Kasetsart University, as in Sakonnakhon campus, we have less students staying on campus, and it's quite terrible for us as well, because I have to understand every single tool for teaching online. So every time I feel bad, and when the students feel bad, I tell them that, okay, you have to try to be positive, you know. Sometimes when something bad comes, it's like a lesson learned for us. If we have learned something, it can be better for the future, but if we give it up in the beginning, so therefore, if we face something worse than this, maybe we cannot tolerate it or bear it anymore. Of course, like for me, like generation Y, during 2003, we have faced the problem of the SARS in the Eastern Asia, like in Hong Kong or support of China, and also Thailand also affected by the SARS virus. And who knows, you know, like almost 20 years later, now we have COVID again. So in the next 10 or 20 years, so we don't know exactly what else is going to come to us. So we have to be brave. And of course, we have to teach our students to be brave as well. Of course, this one is like some basic introduction about COVID that happened in Wuhan, China. And of course, nowadays, many people in Thailand and in other countries, they have been vaccinated. For me, I have been vaccinated 2 doses already by AstraZeneca. But for the third dose, which will come in October, we will be offering by either Moderna or Pfizer, which is a different type of the vaccine to create more antibody in our body. Regarding Kasetsart University in Thailand, we have 4 campuses, and the total student, we have around 80,000, and we have around in total 4,000 professors and lecturers. In Thailand, the campus that we have is the main campus in Bangkok. We have a Bang Khen campus in Bangkok, and in Bangkok, the situation is getting like worse because we have like more than 300,000 people get infected. We have Nakhon Pathom campus as well, which also suffer by the infection rate of the 29,000 people. In Chonburi, we also have Kasetsart University Chonburi campus. And in Chonburi now, we have more than 70,000 people infected. And luckily, I stay in the northeastern part of Thailand of the Kasetsart University Sakonnakhon campus. We have around 6,000 infected only, and most, I can say most of the people in my area now, especially the regular, we are vaccinated. So we do hope that in the future, less people will get infected, and in the future, the student can come to study with us. So what happened with the COVID and how it affects us? In this aspect, I try to talk about the case in Thailand and how the world has been affected by this catastrophe. First of all, like, okay, the first one, okay, is there anyone open the mic? If you don't mind, maybe could you please turn it off? First of all, like in Thailand or any part of the world, we have been affected, especially in the educational industry. In Thailand, we are one of the biggest tourism industry in the world, and mainly our GDP have been borne by that industry. However, after the COVID happened, Thailand has to be locked down several times. Traveling abroad or welcoming tourists are almost impossible. For the educational system in Thailand, no matter what you are in the primary school or high school or even like university level, disregarding you are bachelor, master, or PhD student, nowadays we have to study 100% online. And even for my case, if I would like to discuss with my student regarding his or her senior's project, I cannot simply allow them to come to my office. We have to do everything like online and editing their work and check back and forth again and over again. Compared to the past, things getting much easier, but nowadays everything is totally online and we have to adapt so bad. And how about the other country, because in Thailand, especially the younger Generation Z, they complain about the vaccine because they think that, okay, they prefer like the vaccine from Moderna or Pfizer rather than Sinovac from China, which is quite strange because this kind of the vaccine, can prevent you from COVID somehow. But for the people in different generation in Thailand, I don't know whether it's based on the information they have received or not. In Thailand, the people from Generation X or Y, like me, we don't care much about what vaccine or what brand we will get. But for the Generation Z, they prefer that they want to get just only two brands. And if our students, they don't want to have the vaccine, how can they come to our campus? While 100% of the lecture here, we have been vaccinated. So this is some discrepancy between lecturer and student regarding the vaccination when we discussing about the COVID topic. How about the other country? As I mentioned earlier in my abstract and of course in the application that have been submitted for the presentation, not just only Thailand, we have been affected by this, like educational strategy industry, like in USA or in the other part of Europe. For me, I am now PhD candidate, but it's impossible for me to stay abroad in Europe due to the high infection rate of the COVID-19. And for the educational industry, I have asked many friends in Europe, especially for the international students. They said that they have to come back to their hometown and they have to relocate it to their dorm. For me nowadays, I have to discussion my dissertation paper with my professor via online only, and even for the defense, if possible, I have to defense online. And I don't know whether for the graduation ceremony, I have to do it online or not. So anyway, whatever happened, I have to accept it through. This one picture is quite sad. It happened in Howard. With the student, especially Chinese student, they have to relocate it from their dormitory and go back to their country. So this kind of situation affect to us all, no matter what we study in any part of the world, how reputation of that university, or regardless of the race we are in, no matter what we are, white, black, or any other race, we have been all, let's say, democratically and equally affected by the COVID-19. So this is one thing that we have to learn and adapt for the future. For the teaching, in the past, I have never ever used this kind of tools at all. But nowadays, in every single class, I have to tell the student that, okay, instead of face-to-face communication or even teaching in the class, doing group discussion together, which should become harder for us since I come from the management field, and in the management field, we have so many business tools that students have to understand. First of all, like basic SWOT analysis that students have to analyze what is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, or even threats, obstacle from the organization. But if I have to do it online, I cannot really see it one by one who analyze it not correct or incorrect, but I have to understand that they analyze it logically or illogically. Nowadays, we have moved to use like Loom, another type of the educational program like Zoom, and we have alternatively, we have Google Meet and Cisco WebEx. And another thing is that apart from technical subject that I have in the management field, in Thailand, we have quite huge load of the student in each class. First of all, like for me, I have to teach around 800 students this semester. Next semester, around 1,000, and the previous semester, around 200 or 300. And this one is quite impossible during the COVID situation because you can teach them theoretically, but for the practical situation, it's quite impossible to teach them or observe them. So this is the 4 subjects that I have been teaching this semester, etc. This is some other activity in 2020. In the middle of the year, Thailand luckily had the lowest infection rate of the COVID ever. And this is the first year that we are allowed to have like the market, like the flea market for the student. There was one subject I taught in 2020, we call modern entrepreneur subject. And since we have around 600 students to be responsible for, I arranged the subject that students, they can make like the temporary flea market and divide it into 60 teams. Each team, they will have to calculate the break-even point for the product and how many units they would like to sell. And by the end of the day, they have to present that how much profit or how much loss they have made. Therefore, as a result, students, they can learn from the real situation last year. But for this year, I cannot do something like this. I cannot gathering like a couple hundred students together to do the flea market together in order to have more entrepreneurial mind. Because nowadays, even talking in the same room are not allowed in Thailand if you gather more than 5 people in the same room. So student discussion, teacher giving consultation to student nowadays is quite I don't want to use the word depressed, but this is the fact that happened now. So we tried our best in Thailand to encourage the younger people, especially Generation Z, to get vaccinated more. Otherwise, we cannot study or doing some other activity together. That was my plan A in the mid of the year 2020. However, we got like the second wave, the big second wave in Thailand. We cannot do the flea market project. So what I did, this had happened from last year, that we gathering students and try to, the student, they have to use the SWOT analysis and use the basic marketing tool like 9P from Philip Kotler to understand that, okay, if you would like to sell this product, what will be your product, your price, your distribution channel and promotion strategy. And as a result, in the end, they will come with their end product and sell in the real market. Also, from last year, we tried to encourage students to study some software online like Power BI for understand the economic situation. Because Power BI, we can use like the graph to analyze it, and altogether with SPSS or even some other technical program like Lucid Chart. However, when we face the big second wave in Thailand, we cannot do this kind. We could not do this kind of the market. So, what is my adaptation strategy? Okay, since you cannot encourage students to sell in the real flea market, so we encourage them to sell online. Okay, of course we have Shopee, we have Lazada, we have Kaidi. Kaidi is the application from Thailand. So we teach the same strategy, but we move a little bit that, okay, you cannot sell face-to-face, but now I will teach you to sell online. So this is what I do in the previous semester. However, in this semester, we have been hit with the third wave. And for the third wave, situation getting tougher and tougher because we cannot ask the student to sell online. Why? even though students can sell online via the platform Lazada or Shopee, but students, when they have received the order from the customer, they have to go to the post office. Like we have in Thailand, we have Thailand Post. We have Hong Kong Courier in Thailand as well. We have some other like Indonesian, I think J&T. We have base from China. So this kind of the international courier in Thailand, students, they have to visit their office and send the product. And of course, if they have to send the product so often, they have the higher chance to get infected by COVID-19. So in this semester, I cannot do this one anymore. I have to tell them that, okay, you have to pretend that you are going to sell online, what tools you are going to use and what platform you are going to sell. But in the end, you don't have to sell in the real flea market. You don't have to sell online, but you have to give me the business plan. So you can see, right, the end product is getting worse and worse. But I don't know, let's see how it's going to be next semester. But this is how I use my adaptation strategy regarding the COVID in different waves in Thailand. And some other part, like, of course, since the generation C, they have been affected so much by the educational problem because they cannot see their friend, cannot really consult it with the professor and etc. I had consult with many students, they said that not just only them feel depressed or suffer from this situation, their parents as well, because, for the generation C who were born in the mid of 90s or up to the 2010, they are the mobile phone generation and they are addicted to using mobile phone. And when we have to study online 100%, 80% or 90% of the students in my class, they don't use laptop computer to study online, but however, they use the mobile phone to study, which is surprisingly. And I asked them that why you don't use the laptop computer. The majority of them, they mentioned that because they get used to it since they were in childhood. And it seemed that by using the phone, we cannot really teach them online for the straight 3 hours, because if you watching something via phone for the straight 3 hours, your phone, battery will running out so fast and your phone will be extremely hot. So this is another problem because many students in my class, they will stay with me for the first half an hour and then they will be gone and then they will come back again, back and forth, and then when I asked them by the end of the day what you have learned, and they said that, okay, I have learned something. And then I asked them again, okay, if you mentioned that you have learned something, can you explain to me in brief, what do you understand? But they said that I cannot tell you. So it means that some of them cannot explain or cannot understand what they have learned so far based on using mobile phone, compared to the student who use laptop. When I ask them that, okay, can you learn something or etc. And they say that, okay, at least I can capture the picture or I can record something without the acknowledgement of the lecturer. And in addition, some students, they use like the own model of their mobile phone and they have to ask the parent that, okay, do you mind buying me new mobile phone? And it's quite sad for some parents, because some parents don't know, they were laid off during COVID-19, especially parents who work in the tourism industry. They have lost their job. They have to use their saving for their children education, and they have to use this amount of money to buy the new phone for the student, which is quite a big problem, because we don't want them to do that. But if they don't do that, how students, especially in Kasetsart University, they learn perfectly or efficiently. So this is what happened for the Thailand case. And regarding about the different generation that I have mentioned earlier, this is the population pyramid in Thailand. Now in Thailand, we are facing the silver economy. What does it mean, silver economy? The silver economy in Thailand, we have the same problem with Japan, that the majority of the population in Thailand, we are elderly people. And as a result, elderly people, they have gray hair or silver hair. And this is the reason why we call the silver economy, because this group of the people will be the main spearhead to drive the economy to go through, because they are having the pension, and many pensioner in Thailand, they are working in the government sector, and regarding for the government sector, they have received so much government profit or government benefit after their pension. And we also have Generation X and Generation Y like me, much smaller gap when compared to the BB. Is stand for baby boomer, who were born in 1940 until 1959. Generation X, who were born in 1960 until 1979. And for the Generation Y, if I can recall correctly, they were born in 1980 to 1994. And then we have Generation Z, who were born in 1995 until 2010. And now we have a little troublemaker, but however, they are quite smart compared to the other generation. We call like Generation Alpha. Why we call it like a little troublemaker, but smarter than any other generation? Because basically, based on the Philip Kotler, the father of the marketing theory, he mentioned that the Generation Y, they have received much of the education when compared to any other generation. Because for the baby boomer, after the Second World War, they don't have received much funding or much scholarship to attain their higher education. And as a result, when they have like a Generation Y, they have put so much effort in the education. So there is no wonder why, if you were born during the 1980 or 1994, most of the people in this generation, they have at least like master's degree or maybe like a doctoral degree. And as a result, you know, when the child of the Generation Y, we call Generation Alpha, who were born like 2011 onwards, they have received educational support from Generation Y as well. And as a result, consequently, Philip Kotler, he predicted that in the near future, the Generation Alpha will be the smartest guy in the room. In addition, based on the McKinsey and company research, this one, they try to compare the different needs and want of the different generation. And for the student in the university nowadays, they are in the Generation Z. So what are their contexts? Of course, they are get used to the social network, especially Facebook, and nowadays getting more used to Snapchat, and maybe like TikTok from China that have been prohibited in USA. Some behavior, they're getting more realistic, but however, they are very impatient based on my experience from teaching and etc. I don't know that in the other country they're having the same situation or not, but in Thailand, we try to discuss about the Generation X and Y. You know, it's quite common for the lecturer to, I don't want to use the word scold, you know, or maybe let's say like to provide strong advice for the student. It's quite acceptable in our generation. But nowadays, you know, for the Generation Z, if they cannot do anything or cannot understand something, you know, you cannot blame them or scold them. If that happen, you know, they will have like some defense mechanism, and they will block anything from you. If you teach anything for them, you know, they will not accept anything. That's what happened with me so far in many subjects. So I don't want to use the word nice, you know, but nowadays I have to be nicer when compared to myself 10 years ago. So this is based on my observation when talking about the Generation Z, and of course in different classes. What I have found so far, and my colleagues also say the same, that they are quite impatient. Therefore, for adapting or using adaptation strategy, you know, when you order them some project, it could be like a short-term project, not a long-term project, because if it is a long-term project, they will give, it has high chance that they will give up in the middle of the way. So this is what I have found so far. The second thing is that they have, let's say, a limited concentration. Sometimes they can concentrate it in online course for a while, but after half an hour, they will leave the room and playing game via telephone or etc. And how did I know that? Because when I teach them, sometimes, you know, I ask the student to share their screen, and sometimes some students, they forgot to close the game, the online game. And even sometimes, you know, I separated students in many breakout sessions in WebEx. And if you separated or created the breakout session in WebEx, the professor can or cannot visit each room in WebEx. So sometimes it happened that when the student realized that, oh, okay, no professor here, so we can do anything we want, we can play a game and etc. But after I randomly visit them in separate room, you know, some of them shocked that, oh, okay, what are you doing here? And I told them that, okay, your job is to do the group work. Your job is not to play like the group game, you know, playing the game together. It's not part of our subject. That's what I have seen so far. The third thing that I have found, and not just in Thailand, in other countries as well, because I had some foreign friends, they mentioned about this. People in Generation Z, they tend to see rights or freedom rather than duty. When you ask them to do something, you know, within the given deadline, they will not say that, I cannot say that it's your duty to do, you know, because if I say so, you know, they will talk back to me and say that, okay, I have freedom to not to do it or not to do it, because, okay, to pass or not pass this subject, it depends on me. You are the one who give the grade, you know. But if I have the mood to do, I will do it. But if I don't have the mood to do, I don't have to do it. So for this case, you know, in the class, you know, if you provide students with so much activity, the most important thing, don't mention about duty, that you have to give me within this and within that, but you have to mention them that, okay, you have the free choice to discuss and you have the free choice to do what you are going to do, and that's it. When I use this kind of strategy, you know, we have gained so much creativity, so much innovation from students when compared to order them, but okay, this is the deadline, you have to do it. If you don't do it, you will be in trouble. So this is my strategy. The final thing that I have found based on my perspective and other lecture, they don't want to work in the office for sure, especially for Generation Z, because they said that they want to be like their own boss. They have more entrepreneurial mind. And therefore, you know, especially for the Kasetsart University, in every single subject, we will try our best to combine the concept of the entrepreneurship to make the student, okay, to make the student understand that after you study any single subject in Kasetsart University, you will be able to adapt that kind of the core knowledge to your entrepreneurial mind. And if you cannot find a full-time job, or maybe you don't want, or you are not happy working in university, working in the office, of course, you can be your own boss. You can have your own little, small, beautiful cafe. You can have like tasty, you know, tasty Thai food restaurant and etc. We give you more freedom. However, I also check from the student evaluation from the subject that I taught, and also from the comment from any other subject. When the Generation Z, they look back on the, of course, in our university, we have like a baby boomer who were born until 1959. We have like the Generation X who were born until 1979. And also, we also have Generation Y who were born until 1994. So we asked the student back, what do they perceive, or is there any perspective regarding about the lecture? So this is what they talk back to us. The first thing is that Gen Z, they think that we are a little bit authoritative. We talk so much about duty and etc. We don't give them so much freedom. Which is partially true, but not 100% true. Some students, they comment that for the other generation, like baby boomer or Generation X and Generation Y, we are a little bit self-centered and self-righteousness. this is based on the Asian culture as well. In Thailand, we have so many ethnic Chinese, and also we have some Chinese belief. As for me, I'm partially Chinese as well, and for the people in Thailand, we do respect. In our past generation, we do truly respect for our lecturer. And we even have like a teacher ceremony, showing some high respect to our professor or our teacher or lecturer. But nowadays, for the Generation C, they perceive the world differently, and they said that that kind of the tradition, or maybe that kind of the belief, is the type of the self-centered, or maybe the self-righteousness. They say that they have the right to say that if I don't agree with something, I can mention that this is my opinion, and you as a lecturer or professor have to listen to us sometime. The third thing is that we were perceived as being conservative, even for myself. Okay, even my face look young, but I'm quite old. I mean, for my generation already, and people mention that for my students, sometimes they say that I'm quite conservative. I have to change the way I talk because 10 years ago, my senior boss, they mentioned that, okay, the way you talk is not so academic talk. You have to use the higher word, no matter what in Thai or in English. But nowadays, we have to change the style of our talking. We have to be more, I don't know, it's some way between polite and impolite, we have to use some teenager slang to talk with them because this is what they want. Otherwise, they will perceive as being conservative people. And finally, they do perceive that what we are teaching nowadays, it's too much theoretical background rather than practical background. And they think that what they have learned from university, they don't have to stay and get graduated from university. They can stay like 1 or 2 years, and then if they can make their own business, they can resign from the university anytime, because they said that, okay, I have the freedom, I have choices in my life. Why my life have to be stuck in university to be under the bar or to be under the educational facade or something, So in this case, in every single subject, we have to promote them that, okay, even though it looks so theory, but this kind of theory you can adopt or you can adapt in your real life, but you don't know it yet because you don't have any working experience. But when you start working full time, you will see that what you have learned in university, it looks like nothing, but there is something in it. There is some meaning into it. And nowadays, we have to try to discuss more about the meaning in life, because what we have found so far that since they are very short, sometimes they are hot-tempered person and they are low concentrated. Therefore, when they make the decision regarding life, they make it so fast and they don't see the long-term consequences. This is some other thing that we have to put in the study as well. Otherwise, if the younger guy like this in Generation C, they make the decision so fast in every single thing, how can the other generation, not talking about Generation Beta or maybe generation after that for sure, if we cannot really educate the Generation C so well. So I think that's it for my presentation. So I have to provide some question that, are we ready for Generation Alpha? Because even the Generation C are quite difficult for us to handle, no matter what we are, Generation Baby Boomer, Generation X, or Generation Y. But the most important thing is that how can we grow together? Because in the past, or for our own generation, we think that, okay, our duty is to make our children to grow stronger. But nowadays, not like that. We were born in the more democratic world and more democratic education, and as a result, if we talk about growth, it's not one side growing. Okay, for the physically, our child can grow physically, but for the mental or mindset, we can learn from them and we can grow our mindset as well. So this is my conclusion for the presentation. If you have any question, you can ask me via email and or maybe call me, or maybe in some slide I have also put the live application QR that you can connect it to me. And for those who come later or miss this presentation, I will try to contact with Professor Vinto again for sending the full presentation today. But okay, all questions are welcome.